Low-Key is a very large addition to Rumbleverse. A whole new island to explore, old historical monuments preserved through time, and a delightful place for vacations and tourism. Or at least, that's what you're supposed to think it is. While Rumbleverse may be a silly cartoon wrestling game, there is an interesting history behind it. From the environment to various fan mails, there are small pieces of information that can be compiled to reveal something bigger. Something more sinister. Let me be your guide as I walk you through the history of Capital City, the tragedy of Low-Key, and the plight that could be ahead for all Rumblers there is. Welcome to Rumble Lore! Before we talk about the history of Low-Key, we first need to investigate what can actually be found on the island. I've run around searching the place to find as many weird things as humanly possible. We'll start at the lower level of things. The main thing you've probably already noticed by now is the Kraken/octopus theme around the entire island. On the beach we can find these idols, some propped up, but one of them destroyed and half buried somehow. But the main attraction is these things. Doors and hatches with this symbol, an eye with tentacles around it. Keep this symbol in mind because we will see it many more times in this video. Moving on to the northern side of the island, we can see the more ancient things left behind, from beacons with tentacles to weird faces and sacrificial altars. Assuming some type of ceremony was conducted here wouldn't be too much to assume. After this we come upon these ruins. The entrance, Kraken themed may I add, reads Victori Spolia, which is Latin for spoils of the victor. Here we find a broken statue of a rumbler and another statue of fried chicken, because somehow the knowledge and tech required to fry chicken existed in ancient times. What do you know? Further in there's a cave with a prison that makes quite the uncanny noise when you approach it. Yeah, scary. And the worst part? That's not the only place where you can hear it. Moving up, there's these Kraken-themed doors. 4 of them spread out in various locations, which all make various monster noises when you approach them. All of them seem to be leading into the center of the mountain beneath the lava dome. Speaking of the lava dome, this is where it gets funky. We'll begin at the entrance. Right off the bat, more of the octopus/kraken theme, and even on the floor, the symbol returns again. But most notably are the side entrances to the arena. Not only is it the symbol, but now this, a mural of people reaching for it. This mural is plastered not only in the dome, but all the way around it. Could the symbol be considered some sort of god or hidden power unbeknownst to Rumblerkind today? Probably. On top of the lava dome you can find these thrones. Again, the symbol seems to be the primary focus. Maybe the lava dome was used as some sort of gladiator arena back in the ancient times. Even outside the dome you can find these rocks with tentacles slitted around them. Well, I believe that wraps up all the weird things I've found on the island. Naturally, there's blatantly obvious things like this eyesore, but we'll get to that later. So, from what we've gathered, it appears that we aren't the first people to step foot on Low-Key. It appears that people have lived here before, but the main focus should be the surroundings of the mountain. Several unopenable doors and what appears to be some kind of prison, and whatever's being contained is what the DDT is after. The Department of Destinations and Tourism, or DDT for short, are the ones responsible for bringing Low-Key to Capital City. Before Season 2 started, you could find all these billboards promoting and advertising the place. And when the day eventually came, they used their tugboats, dragged the island to the mainland, and tied it to the east coast. I'm not even joking, that's canonically what happened. It goes without saying, but the DDT is not honest with their intentions. More than often on the barge, Skip Leggerday will bring up monstrous tentacles or monsters, followed by the DDT denying all claims.
Folks have been asking me about monstrous tentacle sightings. The DDT wants me to assure you, it's just the wind.
Lots of fan mail speaks of the DDT as well. A piece from Delphine tells us about the organization's strictness, and as you ascend the leagues, even the DDT sends us letters that are unsettling to say the least. Talking about the Tribunal of Elders, and even going as far as inviting us, the Rumbler, to join the DDT through an initiation ceremony under the lava dome. Cole Snaps mentions in fan mail, "The Department of Destinations and Tourism really know what they're doing. I heard they keep records on all the tourists, including details about their performance in the Rumble. I feel safe already." Which is most likely the reason they try to recruit us as we rise in the leagues. Later on, Cole tells us he's received an invitation for a once-in-a-lifetime experience under the lava dome, and suddenly goes missing. The worst is, this is the last fan mail you get in this season. This might be the last we hear of Cole. Last thing I want to point out is the info about Mike Tailbone Mitchell and an organization called Octopus Holdings. Mike supposedly started working there after a water slide accident. He talks about sneakily watching the Rumble while his supervisor's in a meeting with the DDT, his stinginess with sick days, about Downward Facing Dawn wanting him to copy some of his boss's documents, and even meeting a rep from the DDT. But most importantly is this piece where he brings up locked crates. I'm not entirely sure what locked crates they were talking about. Well, luckily, there are people out there with sharper eyes than me. Stackman on Reddit, if you look in the Season 2 preview trailer, you can see the locked crate at 034 on top of the tram. And what do you know, right there in the trailer we can find a locked crate. While writing this script, the mid-season update has been released and now we can see the Kraken logo, so now we know for sure they're the crates Mike was talking about. So, what have we figured out so far? We figured out that there's something beneath the lava dome that ancient rumblers wanted contained. We've also figured out that the DDT is after whatever is down there and they're collaborating with Octopus Holdings to get it. Only thing left to do now is check the only place in this game where ancient history can be found, the Old Abseil. Here we can find a theme I believe we've seen several times before. On the drums we find tentacles plastered over them. Surrounding the tower are these murals, some indicating what has happened or maybe will happen. One mural of Cyclone, one mural of Chokeslam, one mural of Dive Kick, and I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be. I think it's Wind Up Fist, but I'm not sure. Every other mural surrounding the tower has been covered up. Why would they cover up ancient history? Who knows? I don't. Further up in the tower we can find this gong and a face which I believe is quite familiar. Yep, this is the same face we saw earlier in the north ruins of Low-Key Key. So now we have a connection between the Old Abseil and whatever happened at Low-Key Key. And speaking of which, remember me talking about Mr. Freezy's earlier? Well, I believe Mr. Freezy's is a tower similar to the Old Abseil, as they do share some similar qualities. Think about it. Both have 4 bridges to reach it, both are surrounded by water, both have a spiral staircase, and they're the same height, roughly. Still not entirely sure what purpose either tower serves, but time will tell. At this point I was losing my mind trying to connect the dots. It was all there, but how do I connect it? That's when one of my Twitch viewers brought up an interesting point. What if this isn't what happened in the past, but will happen in the future? That got me thinking. What if this truly is the first time Low-Key Key has been seen or heard of? What if this was just a big prophecy? What if none of this happened in the past and the island was just the way it is? But that doesn't make sense. Why would there be so much ancient stuff on the island if no one had been there before? Did they just predict there were gonna be overgrown statues in a prison on it? It just didn't add up. I needed something that proved that Low-Key Key had been around before it got refurbished, that people used to live there before Capital City. And what do you know, once again the fan mail comes in clutch. Another lovely piece from our friend Delphine Maximus. The return of Low-Key Key is bringing back a lot of memories. My family used to summer there in the age of the first round. It saddens me to see its beauty tarnished by hotels and restaurants, for they actually do have a pretty good samba night. This tells us all that's needed. Not only do we have a name for what the ancient times were called, Age of the First Round, but Delphine stating the return of Low-Key Key does in fact mean that it has been around in the past and inhabited by people like Delphine's family. And at this point, I believe I've connected it. Ladies and gentlemen, with all the information gathered, here is my theory, and it all begins here! The Capital City Smashonian Center. I know what you're thinking. Seb, what the f does this place have to do with anything you've told us? Well, this is where I believe that the Octopus Holdings first began their operations, utilizing a museum as a front for their real plans. One of the Season 2 fan mails even reads as follows.
Come visit us at the museum. We have a fascinating new exhibit called The Old Gods. Will they return to destroy us? Probably not, but no promises.
Real subtle, aren't they? In the museum you can find several bookshelves, but most notably 2 pinboards. This is where the Octopus Holdings not only learned about Low-Key Key and the power it harbors, but also where they scouted people to join their organization, such as the DDT and Skip Legerday. In the age of the first round, the people of Low-Key Key discovered this Kraken entity and tried to harness its power, but failed. As a result, something malicious was unleashed upon the island and promptly tried to destroy it, which would explain the broken statues and idols around the place. Somehow the ancients were able to contain this entity, which would explain the prison on the island and what I believe is the meaning behind Spoils of the Victor. It's a way of saying, yes, we won, and here's what we got from it. Destruction. After these events, the ancients decided Low-Key Key was no longer a safe place and left for a new island, which would later become Capital City. In case someone wanted to find Low-Key Key and unleash the terror contained, the ancients constructed the Old Abseil as well as the murals to warn future generations of the danger that lies contained there. And naturally, Octopus Holdings ignored their warnings. With the help of the DDT, they used their boats to go to the old island and refurbish it into a tourist resort, trying their best to hide everything from the past that indicates that Low-Key Key is not a safe place to stay. This would also explain why some of the old murals are covered up at the Old Abseil, as they contain vital information about what truly happened. After successfully turning Low-Key Key into a tourism resort, they started advertising. Back in Season 1, several posters could be found in Capital City showcasing the various locations of Low-Key Key. Then when the season ended and all the preparations were complete, they used their tugboats to drag the island to the mainland and put their scheme into motion. Now it's people entering, relaxing, and rumbling on Low-Key Key. The Octopus Holdings and DDT have now fully begun their operations, recruiting rumblers, sweeping crucial information under the rug, and what appears to be sacrificing people to their Kraken god, slowly but steadily harnessing their power to use it to their own selfish gain. Or at least, that's what I think. But one thing is sure, if the DDT and Octopus Holdings are successful with their plans, it will go bad. Real bad, real quick.